It's just for fun. I hope you all enjoy. Well, is it working or is it not? Billy Bob asked as he looked at Stevie Ray.
Does it feel like it's fucking working, god damn it?
His little brother replied as he examined the metal pylon that had been set up behind their parents' house. This isn't some animatronic Santa, you know. You're the one who always talks big about being an engineer. Not going to let you live this down if you can't make it work. Billy Bob helpfully encouraged as his brother growled.
Just shut up and hand me the duct tape.
After Billy Bob handed him the silvery tape, there was a crackling of electricity, and he saw the pylon light up. He felt different as well, and then looked over at Mittens. His cat had been waiting patiently at his feet for a few minutes now, so Billy Bob finally raised the catnip mouse he'd been holding over his head, prompting the cat to stand up and start to get ready. Then Billy Bob tossed it up onto the roof of his parents' house in a soft, underhand lob that nearly took it over the top of the roof. But the cat easily ran after, leaping 10 feet into the air to land on the roof and chase after the mouse. Yeah, it's working, Billy Bob said with a grin as his brother closed the hatch on the pylon. Guess we're starting to get the hang of xenotech after all. Pretty cool to have a gravity-altering tower, eh?
The fact that you're a corrupt colonel who used his military pull to get one of these so you could bring your girlfriend to dinner astounds me.
However, as Stevie Ray started to get up, he felt Billy Bob's hand on his shoulder, holding him in place for a moment.
What are you doing?
I will not stand for this insolence. The unter ranks must not speak of their superiors in this manner.
Billy Bob, knock it off.
Stevie Ray sighed, trying to shift so he could press up better against his brother's hand. I am not Billy Bob. I am Willy Bob, Billy Bob proclaimed as Stevie Ray began to squirm.
Don't you dare,
Stevie Ray warned, trying to sink his neck into his shoulders as if he were a turtle. But Billy Bob had already slobbered on his finger, jamming it in Steve Ray's ear and twisting it around as he shouted, Willy, Willy, Willy! From the house's kitchen, their mother looked out and slowly shook her head.
A pilot and an engineer. If only they were actually queer, then they'd have an excuse.
Meanwhile, Stevie Ray squealed and gasped until Billy Bob pulled his hand away and then turned, already running.
You fucker!
Stevie Ray was crying out, dropping his tools and the duct tape as he turned to chase after Billy Bob. Striking a superior office is insubordination that can result in court-martial, he called over his shoulder as he ran towards his longhorn.
I'm gonna insubordinate your face with my fist,
was all Stevie Ray could answer in his anger. But Billy Bob was up the ramp and into his ship before his brother could catch him, the door sealing shut as Stevie Ray slammed on it with his hands and kicked at it.
You come out here right now, you bastard.
Ah, I have an important official from a friendly nation in here. You know the house rules. No disturbing the peace around diplomats, Billy Bob said through the intercom.
Ah, she's your girlfriend? Close relationship trumps diplomatic immunity. No one is safe when they're family.
Stevie Ray pointed at the door, trying to counter Billy Bob's ruling. We're not married, nor do we have a kid on the way. Diplomatic immunity still covers me for important family gatherings. Check the rule book. Billy Bob grinned on the other side as he said that. Stevie Ray thought for a moment and then cursed, stomping back down the ramp as he went to go get his dropped tools. Billy Bob chuckled to himself and then looked to his left, letting out a surprised gah as Emily was standing right there.
So, is the gravity pylon working?
Billy Bob had replaced the big long word she kept using for the gravity pylon to make it easier for him to figure out what was going on. Yeah, Stevie Ray just got it finished. You'll be able to meet everyone soon enough, but don't get too excited. My family is a bit of a rough bunch. He cautioned as he held his hands out. It's kind of hard not to be excited. This will be my first Billy Bob family Thanksgiving, she said with one of her usual chirps, feathers shifting a bit as she twitched her wings.
You said they even brought some of your extended family here for the meal.
Yeah, my granddad came on back from Texas too, and we even picked up my dad's grandmother from her place in Rough and Ready. He noticed Emily tilt her head at him.
What? These places are names? Who else is from Texas that is in relation to your maternal grandfather? And your fraternal great-grandmother has a place that is tough and prepared? I'm confused.
Billy Bob shook his head. No. The old bastard lives on a planet that's an American colony. It's called Texas too. See, without the translator in our language, we have 3 words that all sound essentially the same, the number 2. I'm going to do something. And a word that essentially means also. They used that last one for the colony because first people wanted to call it New Texas, but the planet is older than the actual Texas. And everything there is sort of shitty anyway, so it's not very new. So they just called it Texas too. As for my great-grandma, she's from a town in California called Rough and Ready. That's the name of the town.
Why is it called that? She asked, clearly confused.
I'd assume because it's filled with people who are rough and ready, Billy Bob ventured. Emily finally shrugged all of her shoulders and her wings.
All right. Well, if the gravity has been prepared, then we're ready to go, are we not?
Billy Bob checked the screen to make sure Stevie Ray had left. Yeah, we're ready to go, he said with a nod and opened the hatch back up. As they walked down and started to head to the house, the sound of gunfire could be heard in the distance. Emily started to crouch and look around, but Billy Bob just waved her forward. That's off in the forest somewhere. Just a local killing stuffed animals or something. Don't worry about it.
People around here just fire guns?
She asked, slowly standing up straight once more as she looked around. But since no one was firing directly at her, she seemed to get over it. Welcome to the countryside. Chances are someone somewhere is firing a gun because they're either bored or showing off, so long as they're doing it in a shooting range or the middle of the woods. If you do that, just fire a warning shot. Then if no one shoots back, you're in the clear.
This place is so strange. I keep reading about humanity, and I think you have plenty of similarities with other intelligent species. And then you do something, or show me someplace, and I find it hard to believe you've all survived this long.
She was clearly being sincere, but Billy Bob just laughed. Yeah, we get that a lot. He agreed and lead her into the back door of the house. Well, that stupid kid from Devry got the pylon working.
You take that back. Devry jokes are subject to full retaliation.
He heard Stevie Ray call from outside. Like a party school in Santa Barbara is any better? Your first engineering class was 500 ways to make a bong, he called back.
Fuck ton better than Devry.
As he said that, Billy Bob slowly nodded. All right, I take back the bit about Devry. With that done, he smiled at his mom and opened his arms wide. Well, hello there, Ma. Aren't you happy to see me?
Don't think for one fucking second I'm gonna hug your sorry ass for pulling me off the front lines. His mother growled back, which made Billy Bob just roll his eyes. Shit. We were all on the front from the very start of the damn war. We all get the same 3 months off rotation, and we all get to enjoy the holidays together.
You say it like that's a terrible thing. All your soldiers get leave at the same time, and you know for a fact that you're just upset because Dad is out killing you. He grinned as he got to see his mom's sneer.
Just because he's got a lead right now doesn't mean he'll hold it. And don't you dare bring this up with him around.
She muttered, but it was too late. Is someone talking about how much ass I'm kicking? Billy Bob looked over at his dad, who was slowly doing some sort of dance into the kitchen to apparently celebrate his current lead.
It ain't even close to over yet.
Mary Sue growled out.
We've still got this whole war ahead of us. You know Marty Stew.
Yeah, but that'll just give me more time to increase my lead, came the reply as he grinned and clapped his hands as he kept up his strange little dance. And we've already passed the 1-year mark, which means I get to ask your hot sister if she wants a threesome and you have to say yes.
Yeah, but she'll never say yes, which is why I don't give a shit about the 1-year mark. It's all about that 2-year lead and you know it.
Mary Sue replied as she crossed her real and cybernetic arms. Ha! You kidding me? Once I call your sister, she'll confess her love for me and offer to dump her good-for-nothing husband so she can have a shot at a real man. And, you know, her man like sister. He shrugged at that last part, and when Billy Bob saw his mom glare, he carefully navigated Emily away from the explosion that was likely going to occur when his mom used her powers of anger to spontaneously combust his father. Over here, we've got most of the family watching TV. Lots of sports on today. Good day for it, he was saying as he moved Emily into the living room as he began to introduce her around the room. Everyone, this is Emily.
Hello, I'm most excited to meet you all, Emily said with a smile as Billy Bob's relatives echoed hello.
Then Billy Bob began to point them out specifically. The living statue over there is my brother Teddy. Teddy Ricks. The massive Special Forces officer corrected with a nod. Next to him, flipping the lighter around, is my pyromaniac sister Jackie Jill. She just goes by JJ.
Sup?
The girl responded with a nod, and then pointed at the guy on the couch next to her.
This is my date, Timmy Joe. He's a pig pilot like me.
Howdy. Timmy Joe replied with a nod.
Then that old sack of crap is my grandpa. Just call him old sack of crap.
The gray-haired man with the giant white mustache just snorted. Well, I guess you ain't as queer as a $3 bill after all. Could have thought for sure you was. The only gay guy in the family is Davy Grandpa. Billy Bob replied with a sigh. Really? The old man looked surprised. When did that happen? Grandpa, he got married to a man. You were at the wedding, Billy Bob exclaimed. How do you not know this? I just thought that was for health insurance or something. The old man shrugged as Billy Bob shook his head and motioned to his other sister. That's Mary Jane. She's also Special Forces. I think she's dating one of the crabs.
When I said I was riding him like I horse, I didn't mean that in a sexual way, you idiot.
She said as she looked back to Billy Bob.
I mean I literally ride him like a horse. He's got a saddle and everything. Since they've got shells, there's some talk going on if I restarted the American cavalry, or if this is just a new branch of the armored cav.
That's actually, now I'm curious too, Billy Bob said after a moment, and then shrugged. And over there is my great-grandma Rosie Jane. Billy Bob pointed to the mummy, sitting in the wheelchair wrapped up in a number of blankets clutching a double-barrel shotgun.
She does look tough and prepared,
Emily murmured, only to have the old woman tilt her head and loudly say,
Was that? Speak up.
Billy Bob spoke more loudly. She says you look very rough and ready, Grandma.
Well, of course I do. Now then, I'm glad you finally brought someone nice home to the family with your boy. About time one of you got someone in your life. I keep expecting the firstborn to knock someone up, but so far, no great-great-grandkids. Lazy. The lot of you.
She growled out. You know that if the military wants me to be married, they'll assign me someone, Teddy said with a shrug. Emily laughed a little.
Oh yes, that human joke correct about military men? She inquired.
But Teddy shook his head. No, when I signed up for the Archangel program, I gave the military the right to pick any relationships out for me. Once they find the best genetic match, they'll assign us to form a military organic soldier production unit and we'll breed. Emily blinked at that. Oh, was all she could really say, and Teddy shrugged.
What is it you're watching?
She asked then, pointing to the TV. That's the junk race derby in the remains of Detroit. Teams assemble the best working vehicle they can from the ruins and then have to race around a set track area while picking up sacks of cash left on the streets in brown paper bags. But they have to watch out, because some of those bags are actually drug stashes for local gangs, Billy Bob explained. Emily stood there, blinking a few times as she watched. Wait,
Was this some colony world that got bombed within the last year thanks to the war?
no. That's just Detroit. It gets rebuilt every so often in some sort of urban renewal project and then falls to shit again. I kind of think we let it fall apart so that there's still some part of the wild, lawless West alive in America, he replied as she still looked confused.
But why do they do this? The race?
To see who gets the most money. Billy Bob didn't understand.
I mean, but they're getting shot at, and that place looks like a war zone.
Yeah, but cash prizes. He waved at the screen.
I seem to have a lot to understand about this country.
Emily muttered.
Kids, get your asses in here and help with the food prep.
The family looked up as they heard their mother shout, and most of the kids got up to go help in the kitchen. As Emily started to follow, Billy Bob held up a hand. That's okay, Emily, you're a guest here today. Besides, it's mostly us cooking up several pounds of bacon and mashing some potatoes. The turkey is already cooking, and I made dressing in advance, which we just have to toss in the oven. So just sit and watch TV with the old folks. He waved her over to the couch, making sure she sat down before going to help in the kitchen with the rest of his family.
So, this is a sport? Emily asked, somewhat unsure, as she was left alone with the two elders of the family.
Sure is. There's some football on too, but honestly, I think this makes Detroit look better than the Lions game. The grandfather replied with a big smile.
What? Emily asked, already confused.
Then she gasped as she saw one of the cars on the show hit an old lady trying to cross the street. To her surprise, Billy Bob's ancient-looking great-grandmother held up her shotgun and shouted,
50 points? Go for the beaner selling fruit.
but when the vehicle missed the wooden cart on the street corner, as the vendor pushed it out of the way, she let out a disappointed groan. They missed the combo! Emily just held one of her hands over her mouth as she watched in fascinated horror. Then the grandpa got excited. Look, that team got the stash for both the rival Gooks and Beaners, and now the gangs are fighting. That's a big turf war bonus for them. Emily spent the next hour trying to make some sort of sense out of the sport that she was watching as the two old humans tried to explain it to her, but she just couldn't get the grasp of what was going on. And some of the words they kept using for various humans didn't work on her translator. When Billy Bob returned to tell them food was ready, Emily was thankful for the chance to escape the crazy sport and rather intense and strange commercials that all seemed to be about sex or explosions but never actually sold sex or explosives. Billy Bob did pull her aside, though. Stay away from the cranberry sauce. The red gelatinous sauce, that is. My great-grandmother made it. If you want, take a bit and set it to the side, but don't eat any. Why not? She smashes up the cranberries with the butt of her shotgun, so it always tastes like the polish she uses on her shotgun. Oh, and sometimes there are splinters. If you see us taking some and saying how good it is, don't mind us. Emily blinked several times as she tried to figure out if Billy Bob was being honest, but he gave no indicator that it was just to mess with her as he brought her to the big table they had set up.
Wow, this is quite a lot of food, she mentioned, and took her seat.
She was about to reach forward and take some, but then she noticed everyone around the table had their hands clasped and their eyes closed. She quickly mimicked their look and waited.
Dear Founding Fathers,
Mary Sue began.
we thank you for this wonderful holiday which you stole from the natives you so ruthlessly and efficiently murdered to give us this wonderful country. We thank you for the bounties of resources you have blessed upon us, and such great people as John Browning, inventor of many kick-ass guns.
She paused as the family around the table murmured their agreement.
We also thank you for the many Jewish and German scientists who have come to this blessed country and given us the ability to vaporize our enemies with atomic fire. And we thank you, O great Founding Fathers, for the many enemies which we are now waging war upon, so we may hone our skills of war as true, red-blooded Americans. We promise to wipe out these ass-faced crabs, creepy fish monsters, sissy poodles, and strange fly geckos in your name. Praise Washington. Amen.
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 The rest of the family echoed before they started to take food from the big platters and dish it out onto their plates, passing things around as they began to talk. Emily kept up pretty well for the most part, as she listened to Billy Bob and family talk about various events and goings-on. She let the others speak mostly, but she finally got interested when the topic of names came up.
Names are very interesting, aren't they? I'm told most humans expected non-humans like myself to have very strange names, but instead, Emily Earhart works perfectly in your language.
That's true, Billy Bob said with a nod. I've met some Xenos who I nearly wanted to call liars when they told me their names.
For example, that one crab who had your name, the one at the museum.
She said as Billy Bob sighed and the rest of the table looked at him.
What's this now?
Mary Sue asked. One of the ass-face crabs. Apparently he and I had, if not the same name, it sounded a lot alike. Well, he's dead, and I ain't so far as I'm concerned I'm the real Billy Bob.
Speaking of, most humans seem to have just one first name. Why does your family work differently?
Emily asked. And then both Mary Sue and Matry Stew started to talk, only to both stop. Finally, Marty Stew waved his wife on.
He didn't want to marry me. He wanted to marry my sister.
Her hot sister, Marty Stew clarified as he shook a biscuit in his hand.
My good-for-nothing slut sister.
She glared down at Marty Stew.
But we had a bet going in the last war against the space beetles when we were young. If I killed more than him, he was stuck with me.
I figured I could outkill her easy, and then she got into special forces and they assigned me to construction. The bastards. So I lost, and so I married her. But she had to take my name, and in exchange, I let her give all the kids their first name on the condition I got middle name rights. Then we both kept calling them from the name we gave them, and so they all sort of got stuck with double names. As for me and her, well, just coincidence. He shrugged. So, you two don't care for each other? Emily asked, obviously surprised, but the table was filled with laughter for a moment.
We've got 5 kids. You don't get that many kids without doing some work together.
Mary Sue mentioned, and Emily blinked for a moment. Oh, was all she could say in reply. Although, at this point, I've got more kills than anyone else, so I should have the ability to rename everyone. Billy Bob said, to which the rest of the table began to hurl insults at him for suggesting something so outrageous. Hey, it's in the family rule books. If I never met Emily and agreed to take her to the capital, do you think the war would have happened? Hell no. They were quiet until his mother.
I think he's right. Both my family's rulebook and Marty's have rules on claiming kills caused by a war you started.
Yeah, but that's just got to be a holdover from the old days, Teddy exclaimed, now worried about his lead over his brothers and sisters. It still counts. I forget the formula to weight the kills towards the family score, but yeah, Billy Bob is probably at the top by a large margin. Clearly, the only one happy about that at the table was Billy Bob, who got out of his chair to do a little dance. All right, who's the best? I'm the best. Who's the best? I'm the best.
What does all of that mean? Emily asked.
It means my name will go to the top of the family scoreboard. Hell yeah.
Well, you said both families had rules about this, Emily asked.
And Mary Sue nodded.
See, I come from a family with a lot of notable Americans in it. Before meeting Marty, I never figured I'd change it. But I didn't mind his last name, since it's got a lot of American history to it too.
Mary Sue admitted.
But then he kept messing up all my kids' names. Theodore is a good American name with a lot of history in the family, but then he added on Rex.
T-Rex. Good stuff. Marty nodded. Teddy just chuckled.
Jackie was just 'cause. Well, I don't know, I liked it. Then she wanted to name him William. He pointed at Billy Bob. And since I want to originally name him Brian, I did the next best thing and named him Robert. That way I knew sooner or later we'd both use the short names, and Billy Bob works better than Will Rob.
Emily stared at Billy Bob, who nodded. Yeah, birth certificate says William Robert. Emily blinked as Mary Sue went on.
And then that jackass thought it would be funny to name our second daughter after a drug.
Marty Stew giggled, which more or less confirmed it.
But we actually both picked Stevie Ray's name. We like the musician.
And I don't.
Stevie Ray said with a sigh.
Well, also the names of your towns don't seem to follow any sort of pattern. I find this confusing.
Emily continued.
The fraternal grandmother lives in a town that means to be tough and prepared, which is odd for a city name, and you name many places after people. But at least you live in Fortune City, which makes more sense than the town above this that's a cry of joy or satisfaction used when one finds or discovers something. Isn't this a very long name?
The table was quiet as they tried to make sense of that, but Billy Bob caught it first, since he'd spent the most time talking to Xenos. That's a translator issue. The name of the town is just Eureka. Eureka, the word, means what you just said, but you don't say all that. That's the definition, and we don't live in Fortune City, we live in Fortuna.
For fish?
Emily asked, but now Billy Bob tilted his head, confused as well. Wait, what?
The name of the town is Fortune for Fish? Or is it just called for fish?
Billy Bob had to shake his head as Emily asked that. No, shit. Okay. Fortuna is Spanish for fortune. So yeah, fuck it. We live in Fortune City, I guess. It's just not in our language. He shrugged, and Emily shrugged all her shoulders as well.
Well, there are still some strange things for me to learn about this place. But at least the food is good. Especially this meat you call turkey. What is it?
As she asked, that the table fell quiet again, and most of the family looked a little embarrassed. Oh, shit. We forgot about that, Marty Stew muttered, but Billy Bob happily answered. It's a type of bird.
Eagles eat bird too.
Oh, well, it's delicious, Emily replied. Then Billy Bob's grandpa spoke up. Wait, isn't she worried about it being some kind of cannibalism or something? Why would she? It's an earth bird, Billy Bob replied. Well, but I mean, she's a bird. Birds eat birds all the time,
That's what I
Billy
see.
Bob replied with a laugh. Any of you see that freaky video where that pelican just straight up swallows the pigeon? Oh yeah, you can see it like squirming around and shit, JJ replied, with somewhat too energetic of a tone. Emily then had to hold on as the family began to go into graphic detail of the worst videos they'd seen on the internet. A contest Billy Bob's grandmother won with a description that nearly made Emily throw up and which the rest of the family would need several bottles of alcohol to remove from their memories. In the end, as the food was eaten and the conversation died out, most of the family began to talk about their plans to prepare that night for Black Friday.
I know that most of the crowds will be thin with the war going on, but I'm still going to bring my armor. You never know when someone will try to shiv you.
Mary Sue was mentioning.
Especially in the women's shoes department.
Oh, you buying presents for actual women. I know you do all your footwear shopping at the Discount Combat Boot Emporium. Marty Stew jibed, earning a glare from his wife.
Yes, I've seen the chaos that is this shopping event.
Emily admitted.
You bring armor with you?
Hell yeah, the whole family armors up. Some of us get clubs, others go for brass knuckles, but no blades. We think that's unsporting even if other families use them. Marty Stew said with a serious expression, making it clear what he thought of those families that did use blades.
Well, before we get armored up, let's get a good family picture, Mary Sue said.
And as the kids groaned, she slammed her cybernetic hand on the table,
Now.
which made everyone quickly get up and head outside. Marty Stew, pushing his grandmother's wheelchair outside as she clutched her blankets and shotgun tighter.
All right, let me get the drone ready.
Stevie Ray muttered as he tossed a little drone into the air, which hovered up over the family, getting ready to take a picture as they all lined up together. Billy Bob and Emily at one end next to Stevie Ray.
All right, on the count of 3, everyone say sack attack.
What? Billy Bob started to blurt, but his brother had already struck, slapping the drone control stick down into Billy Bob's crotch, making him drop to the ground, clutching himself in pain.
Who's got diplomatic immunity now, bitch?
Stevie Ray yelled out as he began to strut around his prone brother. But then he looked over and saw Emily with her wings flared out, all colors exposed.
Oh shit, angry girlfriend, counterattack.
As he began to run for the house, Emily gave chase, and Billy Bob tried to get up. Emily, wait! Don't mess up his face. My mum's serious about getting a good family picture. And so ends another average Billy Bob Thanksgiving.